Hola! I'm back. Okay, so they encouraged me to go to another church. So after I had tried to get a copy of the film, the girls that were attending there at this the one I just left said to me when I was trying to get the copy of this message, so I really heard what I heard. I said to her, why did the pastor say that about me? I said, what did the pastor say about you? I said, he compared me to Legion and then I was living an LGBT lifestyle. I didn't hear that. So basically, they lie in front of you. They do psychology lies on you to tell you that they didn't hear what I heard and make you like a mind fuck, basically. So I said, you shook my hand saying sorry about your ordeal. I shook your hand. How did I do that? I just, what I mean? It was just like, I thought I was in the twilight zone, that my prayer was chatted out and I was accused of living a lifestyle what I didn't live. And I was compared to Legion. And I'm like, this is like a twilight zone here. I have to just leave the church. And then she said to me, do you want to speak to Fletcher? And I said, no, I don't want to speak to her because she's the one that's been feeding my business for sermons and mixing it with gospel passages through the Bible. So I left permanently after that. Then they suggested to me, why don't you go to it? My mum said, why don't you go to this church in Archway, which is a Ghanaian church? I said, okay, I'll go to that one. So as I was going there, people were still, it was only like 2 weeks afterwards that people were still on the lookout to see updates on myself. So what happened after that was I went to this Ghanaian church. I sat there, very out of it. I was really distraught and really, I just wasn't in a good headspace. So as they called us down to say, if you're worshiping for us for the first time, could you come down? So I came down there. So it was just me and this other guy. And he told the church where he came from, and where he's coming from, and then he passed the mic to me, and I was like, when I got into the pulpit, I was like, my name's Mark, and I've come from the Dominion Church in Wood Green. I'll tell you afterwards. I couldn't even speak because it's not just that they did that to me, but the pastor encouraged people to attack me and call me names and abuse me for no apparent reason. Someone who was so popular for the first 2 months in this church, and then to have my reputation just tarnished like that, saying I had Legion, I was living an LGBT lifestyle, and then instead of that, you go and attack that person and abuse that person and call that person the most horrible homophobic names, that I couldn't believe this was going on in the church. So when I went to the second church, I couldn't even speak, and I had to go in, I couldn't even talk. So they brought me and the guy came back, went backstage, and the other guy was talking to us about how, talking about your progress. And I was still out of it. I wasn't really in it. So afterward, I started attending this church now. So this Ghanaian church seemed good for the first few months. What I didn't know in that church, there was a Ghanaian witch doctor that God warned me about, who was monitoring, like a monitoring spirit. Ghanaian elder particular, and God was warning me that this elder has been spying on me and observing me and studying me in my home in ghostly form. So when this was going on, God revealed it to me, this is the same person, and he acted like I didn't know who he really was, because he was like, spying on me, monitoring me, and then he was also another one what used me to abuse me in this church. So I was telling my mum and I was telling the charity shop I'm going to do a testimony in this church about my experience, which I'm pretty much telling you now. So as I was doing my testimony, I was telling them about the Kenya holiday that I got when I was 16, the DVDs and everything like that, and that I used to be into adult movies and stuff like that in my testimony. So I was, oh, that's interesting. They thought that was very interesting, and I told that the pastor told a lie on my life, and then I left and everything like that. So I told them that. So I thought that was the end of it. A few months later, I can't remember when this particular thing happened, but I remember something happened. I think, yes, this is it. Thank you, Jesus. There was this, they played it. So I came to church one day, right? So I was going to church during the only times. I was only there for maybe about 4 months into this one because I was starting to get happy being in this church. But what I didn't know is the pastor, the Ghanaian elder pastor, was in cahoots with my previous pastor from the Wood Green church, and they wanted to do something similar what happened in the previous church. So when I was there, they were doing this testimony. People doing their testimony, talking about their exams and da 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 da. And I was sitting on the left hand side with the ladies, because obviously I think I was about to leave again. Because I wasn't happy in this church again. And I remember sitting there and I was really out of it, and they kind of, this is very awful what I'm about to say now, but they actually sat me there. I sat there, and then they got someone to sit next to me, and they kind of put like a Ghanaian film on, a Ghanaian movie, and I couldn't understand it, right? So they got one of the pastors, to sit with me and interpret what's happening. So as I was there, the pastor was like going out on my leg. It was rubbing my leg, like sexual harassment, like I don't know what you call it, like sexual harassment it was. And he just kept on doing that. I said, I just want to leave. So he spoke to me, he said, oh, don't leave, blah, blah. He said, would you like someone to sit with you? So I said, I'll get someone. So they did the same thing again. The person was doing that and rubbing my leg in a sexual way, like, and making it like a porno. They were doing like a homosexual porno on me. Like, the testimony of what I did, they used it against me and made a little porno film, right? And they did it behind when there was a girl in the church that I kind of liked, and they did it in front of her, so it made it even more embarrassing, but it was all planned. So after this show finished, everyone started going crazy again in the church, so I couldn't catch a break. And as I said, it wasn't me, it was this guy, blah blah blah. So then it was all planned. I went down there and they actually did this thing where they hold hands and just cover their heads like that, and they said, oh Mark, how could you do that? Like, they were all in the ring, all the youth were in the ring, and it was a practical joke really, but using my testimony as in a joking way. So they didn't take me seriously, they just made a mockery of my testimony. So then the pastor, who was the one who arranged for it to happen, he said, oh Mark, anytime you need to talk, I'm here. So I left, and I was considering just to leave this church completely because they did the same thing what my previous church did to me. But I came back, and then the week when during that week, I had people pointing the finger again at me. So I had been mistreated in the first church, and I was mistreated. My testimony was used against me in this church. So this is 2 times I've had 2 bad experiences in 2 churches now. So as I, what happened after that? I just told, it affected me so much because there was a opportunity for me to be at the Hackney Empire. I was actually going to be one of the, I was going to have a role in the Hackney Empire. And because of the stress of the church and what happened in the church, I lost that opportunity. I lost that opportunity. So I told the staff at the place where I was working at, and I told them what the Ghanaian church people did to me in the church, that they used my testimony, used it against me. So they said, why don't you just give it a week, take a week off and then come back next. I said, okay. So I left, and then I came back the next week, confident again, and then they wanted to know why I wasn't there the following week. So basically, they heard one of the pastors heard what they did affected me. So he went, and his wife told the pastor, who was the pastor's wife, told the other two why Mark didn't turn up the week before. So they brought the whole situation again. They stirred the pot with the two people, the person who did the sexual harassment and the girl that I liked at the church at the time, when I did like her. They stirred the whole situation up again, so they made it even more worse. And I don't know what they said to me. They said something like, what was really interesting, that they compared me to Joseph in the Bible, who was 10 years as a slave, and then he became obviously remember Joseph was a slave for 10 years and then 10 years as a ruler. So it was basically basing that Bible scripture towards me. And I remember one of the pastors said, go home to your room with your secrets, because they knew that at some point in my life something like that might happen to me. So they stirred the pot, and they got the youth to mistreat me as well. So it was they all kind of bullied me. And I remember one of the elders came up to me and said, go back to your house, and they just, they were just being really nasty towards me in this church, right? So I left, and I said to myself, when I went home, I said to myself, I couldn't believe how someone who had a love for Jesus Christ, loved God, and to be mistreated twice in two black churches, one Pentecostal black church and then a Ghanaian church, 2 times being mistreated. I thought to myself, well, how could someone do that to someone, someone who really wanted to have a relationship, and I couldn't get to serve Jesus Christ the way I wanted, So they waited for me to come back again, because I said to them, I didn't want to come back. And like an idiot I went back there, and then I found out the time when I came back the next week that the prayers that I had in the previous church and this church was meant to happen. God had already arranged for it was a trial that I had to do, and I didn't really realise about it at the time. So that was interesting. So everyone found out, the previous church found out. So they kind of knew that it was meant to happen. Everything what I was meant to go through was meant to happen. So I was like, okay. So I knew at some point I was going to walk out of this church again. I knew it. And there was something that God wanted me to do. There was a letter arrived at my house. And at the time I was doing aloe vera, the Forever Living, I was doing that. And what happened, I was doing that because I was this aloe vera thing, and it went bust from when I started doing it. Wasn't successful. And I remember coming home one time, and I got this letter from God, a letter from God to say, please do not open this letter for 48 hours. So I obeyed, and I'm gonna just take another break. Hold on.